What determines something's worth? How do you know if you are getting a good deal? Why is it that a Monet or Van Gogh could catch millions at an auction, whereas an equally beautiful painting by an unknown artist can fetch just a few $1,000s? Is there any inherent value, or is it all merely a matter of perception? These are difficult questions to answer. Such discussions of value were taken to the extreme in the 1630s. This is Tulipmania, the Dutch tulip bulb market bubble. What is a market bubble? All kids love to make bubbles. They blow into a little stick and watch as the bubble they create gets bigger and bigger. The bigger it gets, however, the more likely it is to burst. After all, there is only air inside, and the more it gets stretched, the closer it gets to its breaking point. That's exactly how market bubbles work. A stock, or in this case a tulip bulb, sees its price rise drastically in a short amount of time. While it is fun to watch, the truth is there is nothing but air inside. In other words, the price has far exceeded what should rationally be expected. Caught up in the emotions of greed and the fear of missing out, speculators blindly bid the prices higher without taking any consideration into what they were doing. With so much demand coupled with a limited supply, prices have to trend higher. According to a May 2020 study, the average American citizen makes $56,000 a year. Think of all the things you could buy with that type of money. Cars, vacations, maybe a down payment for a house, or maybe even a tulip bulb. Sounds crazy, right? But at the height of the Dutch tulip bulb mania, one bulb could yield as much as 6 times the average annual salary. That would be over $300,000 in our modern world. How did prices get so extreme? How did people get whipped into such a frenzy? Starting in the late 1500s, tulips began to arrive in Europe as trade routes allowed for an exchange of items that previously had never been seen. Since no one had seen such beautiful bulbs before, they quickly became a sign of status, wealth, and luxury. Holland, unlike some of its neighbors, had a strong middle class that aspired to be wealthy. They began to covet tulips as they showed their status in society, just as a Rolex watch or Lamborghini or other items would be associated with status in our modern culture. Not all tulips were deemed equal, though. The Dutch began to fall in love with bulbs that had unique patterns filled with many colors. A new strand of virus affected certain bulbs, causing them to have colorful and distinctive designs. These rare bulbs began to see increased demand as the mania began to build. Starting around 1634, ordinary citizens began to become interested in tulips, not as a status symbol, but as a means of speculation. As the price of tulips began to rise, people began to buy them in hopes of flipping them for a quick and easy profit. Greed soon took over as everyone was afraid of missing out on such easy money. With strong demand from increased speculators entering the market and such little supply, tulip prices began to skyrocket. In 1636, many bulbs traded above the yearly salary of an average person. To make up for such large prices, speculators began buying tulips with futures contracts, allowing them the right to purchase a specific bulb in the spring for a set price. In early 1637, prices began to rise drastically. During the peak of the craze, Dutch traders began to sell their homes or invest their life savings just to own a few bulbs. In 1 month's time, the price of one bulb was noted to have increased over 10 times in value. In February 1637, prices had gotten so high that buyers in the town of Haarlem, who had recently dealt with an outbreak of illness, refused to pay the exorbitant prices. News of the shrinking demand began to spread to neighboring towns, and prices began to rapidly fall. Those who had bought on credit were forced to sell, which in turn tumbled prices even lower. Like dominoes falling one after the other, the trend was now to the downside. One bulb lost over 95% of its value in 1 week alone. Those who gambled recklessly on the tulip craze lost everything, and tulip growers who at one time had a highly sought after commodity now had bulbs that were worth a mere fraction of their price just 2 months prior.